These group of Indian, by the British government, they were labeled as terrorists. But those same people, by the common Indians, we call them as patriots, as freedom fighters. Same individual, same activity, two different labels. One group is calling them a terrorist, the other group is calling them freedom fighters, patriots. Same individual, same activity, two different labels. Therefore, before you give a label, you have to try and find out what is the reason that the person is giving the label. If you agree with the British government that Britain had a right to rule over India, you would call all these people as terrorists. But if you agree with the view of the common Indians that the Britishers came to India to do business, they had no right to rule over us, then you would call these people as freedom fighters. Same people, same activity, two different labels. And I'd like to give one more example of Nelson Mandela, who was the ex-president of the new free South Africa. And we know that by the previous government, the white apartheid government, they called Nelson Mandela earlier as a terrorist. And they imprisoned him in Robben Islands for more than 25 years. But the same person, by the indigenous South Africans, they called him as a hero. Same person, same activity, two different labels. If you agree with the previous white apartheid government of South Africa that the color of the skin makes you superior, if your skin's color is white, it makes you superior, then we all have to agree that one of the greatest terrorists on earth was Nelson Mandela. But if you agree with the view of the South Africans, the original inhabitants of South Africa, that the color of the skin does not make you superior, or same as is mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Hujurat chapter 49 verse number 13, it says, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min zakrin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum inna Allaha alimun kabir. O humankind, we have created you from a single pair of male and female and have divided you into nations and tribes so that you shall recognize each other, not that you shall despise each other. And the most honored in the sight of Almighty God is the person who has taqwa. The criteria for judgment in the sight of Almighty God is not color of the skin, it's not sex, it's not wealth, but it is taqwa, it is righteousness, it is piety, it is God consciousness. So if we agree with the view of the Quran, and as our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, he said in the farewell pilgrimage, in the Hajjatul Wada, he said that no Arab is superior to a non-Arab. Neither is a non-Arab superior to an Arab. No white man is superior to a black, neither is a black man superior to a white, except by virtue. So if you agree with the view of the Quran and the saying of the beloved Prophet Muhammad, you would not call Nelson Mandela a terrorist, but you would call a person who's fighting for his rights. Therefore, before any person gives any label to any individual for any of his act, we have to first analyze for what reason is he doing the act. The number 2 on top of the list of misconception in Islam is jihad. And there is a great misconception regarding the meaning of the word jihad, not only amongst the non-Muslims, but even amongst the Muslims. Most of the people, irrespective whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, they feel that any war fought by any Muslim for any reason whatsoever, irrespective whether it be for personal reasons, for political gain, for regions, for language, for any reason, if any Muslim fights a war, it is called as jihad. It is a great misconception not only among the non-Muslims, but even among the Muslims, that any Muslim fights a war, it is termed as jihad. Jihad comes from the Arabic word jahada, which means to strive, which means to struggle, which means to exert effort. And in the Islamic context, jihad means to strive against one's own evil inclination. Jihad in Islamic terminology also means to strive to improve the society. It even includes to strive in the battlefield in self-defense. And it even includes to strive to fight against tyranny and oppression. Jihad comes from the root word jahada, which means to strive, which means to struggle. For example, if a student strives to pass in his examination, in Arabic, we say he is doing jihad. He is striving, he is struggling to pass in the examination. If an employee strives, struggles to satisfy his employer, irrespective whether the work he is doing is good or bad, it is called as jihad. Irrespective whether the employee, whether he is doing good work or bad work, if he is striving to satisfy his employer, it is called as jihad. Jihad merely means to strive. If a politician strives to acquire vote, irrespective whether it is good or bad, it is referred to in Arabic as jihad. And there is another misconception as far as the word jihad is concerned. Most of the people think, Muslim, non-Muslim alike, that jihad can only be done by Muslims. In fact, there are verses in the Quran in which Almighty God says that even the non-Muslims, they did jihad. The Quran says in Surah Luqman, chapter number 31, verse number 14, that we have enjoined on the human beings to be kind to the parents. In travail upon travail did the mother bore them, and in years twain was their weaning. The next verse, Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse number 15 says that, but if they strive, but if your parents strive to force you to worship someone else besides me, besides Almighty God, of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them. Here the Quran says that if your parents strive, they struggle, they do jihad to make you worship somebody else besides Almighty God, do not obey them. Here the Quran says that the non-Muslims do jihad. The same message repeated in Surah Ankabut, chapter number 29, verse number 8, that we have enjoined on the human being to be kind to the parents. But if they strive, if they do jihad and force you to worship anyone besides me, besides Almighty God, of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them, but live with them in compassion and love. So here we come to know from the Quran that even the non-Muslim did jihad. Further mentioned in the Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 76, that the believers, they fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the unbelievers, they fight in the way of the Satan. So strive against the brothers of the Satan. Here again it speaks that the evil people, even they do jihad. So jihad is an Arabic word which merely means to strive, to struggle. In context, the believers, they strive in the way of Allah. It is called as jihad fi sabilillah. And the evil people, they strive in the way of the Satan. It is called as jihad fi sabi shaitan. So jihad is of two types, good jihad and bad jihad also. Striving for the good cause, striving for an evil cause. But in the Islamic context, if it is not specified, it is taken for granted that the jihad is for a good cause. It is jihad fi sabilillah. It is jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.